don't have to lend me your ears if you can see this with the camera with your eyes, but what I'm going to do is show you how in our zero waste pursuits, we are not just grinding food waste and we're not just grinding our paper towels and paper cups, but we're also grinding these almond milk cartons to put in the biodigester, which I previously despaired of doing because I had to make the choice, paper or plastic, and I didn't want to accumulate so much plastic, although now I'd rather have the HDPE bottles because I can make bowls out of them and make signs out of them, make plates out of them, so I can easily recycle HDPE, plastic number 2 now. But when I was originally debating this, I didn't know how to use the plastic jugs to make things, so I wanted to go paper. The problem is that these are not just paper, and so when you go to actually use them, you'll find, of course, you have to remove the HDPE cap and ring. So I've always taken these out, and these I can melt down. That is HDPE. That's plastic number 2. So I collect these, and then the problem is that these cartons have a plastic liner. So you're not really seeing it, but the paper here is coated on the inside with plastic, and I kind of tear at it. Maybe you can see it. It's not obvious at all, but it is there. It looks like, I thought it was wax originally. It's not. There, it's coming off now. It actually is a plastic liner, and so we can't put these directly into the biodigester shredded up because we'll just build up all this plastic that'll just sit there forever. That's what our experiments with using rumen bacteria from paddle does turn out to break down certain plastics. We don't know yet. But that doesn't deter me from using these in the biodigester. So what I do is I remove the overtly plastic parts and save that. I tear open the carton, as you can see, and this one even has some aluminum mylar reflective material embedded in the plastic, just like a chips bag would. So I have that, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to grind it in the incinerator, and what you'll see is that I can then remove the plastic through the grinding process. That's pretty fun. So let me start by doing this. Let me put these aside for a second. Let me take my food waste as a starter, and let's grind all that up as we normally do. So let me turn on the incinerator here. So here, of course, we're doing avocado peels and lemon peels and carrots, and we're doing paper towels, tea bags with the paper. So all that gets ground up. Even the popsicle sticks. That's all fair game. And the shells for the pistachios. All fair game for the biodigester.
Good job.
And normally, that would be what I feed the digester, right? My ground up food waste. And I pour that into the Solar Cities IBC tank biodigester. That's fine. I can also just pour it on the ground here. And in that plastic container there, the food waste, because it's been inoculated with soil bacteria, it'll turn into soil in 3 to 6 days. Here I have not inoculated it, and it's going to take months to turn into soil, but it does not attract vermin. It smell, right? You smell nothing.
No smell.
There occasionally the flies that come for the actual food waste will come by and they'll look at it and then they get disinterested and they go away. So it really is not interested in ground up food, the so-called vermin, rats and flies and roaches. You just don't find them when you just spill ground up food waste onto the ground, or in my case, to be extra sure that we know what we're talking about, we are spilling them into plastic containers made from IBC tanks. And one, as I said, had soil thrown in to inoculate, and that turns into soil in 3 to 6 days. This was just plastic, and it just sits there for months and months and slowly degrades. So we know that even if you don't have a compost bin, you can just broadcast ground up food into the garden. Okay, so that's all fine and good. I guess because my wife just gave me carrots, we gotta pause for a second and grind that up.
Hey, baby.
All right.
I need to take a. I need to
look
move
at
it.
this kid for a second.
Yeah, I need to look at this.
So that's fine as far as it goes for right now. And I can take this wonderful soup and feed it right to the biodigester. That's going to be nice for the biodigester to make its stuff. All right, so we got that. Now, that's fine and good, but now comes the point of this. So I have this almond thing, and I take it and I put it in the grinder. And so what it's going to do is grind up the paper and separate it from the plastic. This one too. This one too. Let it do its thing for a second.
You do better.
And you'll notice that what I'm getting over here is I'm getting paper pulp, right? So the paper pulp, a little bit of aluminum has come through. I'm not that concerned with that. It acts as floating raft for the biodigester. It'll come out the other end. But what's more exciting for me, and I think I need a stick now to plunge that because I want to be careful with my fingers.
I don't know where the big stick went.
Well, I have this plunger, but this plunger doesn't work for the incinerator. Here, this. Let that go for a few seconds. Now I'm much happier with the cartons that don't have the aluminum in them, because the aluminum does shred and the aluminum does end up in this bucket. Now when I pour this into here, the soil that I create will have aluminum in it. And aluminum is a natural part of soil. As far as I know, it doesn't exhibit any toxicity at this level to plants growing in it, but we do want to test that. As for the plastic, that's where I don't want to go in, and you're going to see now, after shredding those up, this is what I recovered. And that's the point of this video. So when you take the cartons, there's the aluminum, and it's been separated from the plastic. It is just aluminum foil. And again, we want to test whether that aluminum foil has any effect on plant growth. And I don't normally buy cartons that have the aluminum inside, because that is a new thing for me. But the ones that have just the plastic liner, I can separate out the plastic liner because the incinerator doesn't let it pass. It collects here. And then I can bring that cleaned plastic, which is low density polyethylene, and I can recycle that into plates and bowls because it's LDPE, which is plastic number 4. The cap that we took off before was, this is HDPE, plastic number 2. So your cartons, milk cartons, almond milk cartons, if they don't have that annoying aluminum stuff in it, they're just going to be LDPE liner and HDPE caps and whatever you call these twist things you screw the caps on. So those can be removed, and these can be melted down in an oven on a cookie sheet We use the silicone cookie sheets and then melt it into objects that are of value. So I want to recover that. I don't want to throw that away. And when it comes to then the paper part, that ends up as a pulp, which is turning into soil or feeding the digester, acting as a surface float as a kind of raft for microbes to colonize, because it is lignocellulose and the digester won't fully break it down, but it does enable there to be inside material for the microbes to create their biofilms on, right, to create surface area. And eventually it'll come out because it's been ground up in the other side in the slurry. And then what you find is with the paper stuff, you can see it turns into paper. And then fungi will break this paper down in time into soil because it is a hydrocarbon and it's mostly a cellulose material. So just as we lay down cardboard and we lay down paper into the garden as a weed suppressant, here, if you poured this stuff on, you would have your weed suppressant as a paper pulp. And then that paper pulp would then coat the soil area until the fungus got at it. But as you can see, you're not sacrificing, because this is going to turn into soil eventually, and it doesn't attract any vermin. And here's the food waste that was on here. So when it spills over, we're not concerned. If you look down here, you can see that for many, many years now, over this sand, we've been just letting it spill from the incinerator. And look at the soldier fly larvae. They're doing great, and they're yummy. So we do often cook these and eat them, so they're a great protein source. But the soldier flies really like it. So we've turned sand into really good soil that is filled with biota just by letting the incinerator spill the food waste out with the paper pulp and the food waste. And so this is the richest part of the garden down here. It goes way down. And this was, if you want to see a comparison between what we have and what the soil looks like, I can just go over here. Of course, I've grown a lot of plants, so you can see there's sand. That's just sand. Look at that. So spilling food waste directly on the ground is a powerful way to compost without composting. You don't need a compost bin. You just need a food grinder. You grind and you let it pour anywhere in the garden that you want to, and you get this. So if you're in a place with crappy soil, if you're in the city on a porch or a rooftop, if you're here in Florida, if you're in Jordan or Palestine in the desert, grind your food waste up and just let it spill. It will not attract vermin. Again, the proof in the pudding is over here, where I take soil and I inoculate, and the microbes turn this food waste into soil in 3 to 6 days, as opposed to not inoculating and it just sits there for months, but eventually does turn into soil because it gets air, drops bacteria in that will do it. But this happens very immediately. But that's the proof right there. And now we're convinced that you don't need to worry about the plasticized jugs, because we can separate the plastic out and then reuse it. See, as I said, the aluminum is still a bit of a problem, and we just started buying those to test them out. I'm not altogether convinced I want to continue to buy those because I'm not really sure what the fate of this aluminum will be. It's certainly not going to melt in the oven. I'd have to get up to 600 degrees to get the aluminum to melt. So I want to stay away from that, but the other jug, perfectly good to collect my LDPE. And that's all I wanted to say. And for those who were really worried about these aluminum particles that are in the water, again, the biodigester is not going to experience toxicity because of some floating aluminum that'll go through the system and come out the other side. It's really about whether you want that aluminum in your soil. And that's something to do some research on, because aluminum makes up a significant part of the crust of the earth. And at that level, I don't think we're going to see aluminum toxicity issues. But again, that's why we do the science as opposed to just accepting what we're reading. So we encourage you to please try this at home, figure out ways to use it, but know that your paper cartons that have the plastic liner are perfectly good to throw into your food grinder to get the plastic out, and then grind up the paper pulp to put into your composter, into your soil, or into your biodigester. Any questions?
I don't think so.
Okay. Pretty cool, huh?
Yeah. Are you sure you want to stop streaming? Okay.